This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Well, good. Well, first of all, welcome everybody, and thank you for being out on the adventure of doing orientation a new way for all of us. And quite frankly, I'm not so sure that this might not end up being a good thing down the road. You know, we're learning as we go with all of the things that we're being forced to do, that maybe some of the things that we've been doing could have been done differently or better all along. I'm not sure how that'll work out, but we do want your feedback. And, you know, if you really like this type of thing, let us know. If you really do not like it, let us know that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to give you, this is an orientation session for people who will be applying for one of two of the grant programs for the Arts and Cultural Alliance. One program is the John Ringling Tower Fund. And as I think most of you know by now, this is a fund that's been set up for several years at the Alliance that is targeted for individual artists and for historic preservation. And we're going to go through what makes you qualified for that fund and how you apply and all of that business, okay? So some of you will be watching this entire presentation. The other one that we're going to talk about that all of you will also be watching is what we call the Opportunity Grant Fund. It started out being called the State of the Arts Opportunity Grant Fund, and I'll tell you why in a few moments. And this is for organizations, not individual artists, but for organizations who are in the arts and cultural business in Sarasota County, but they do not qualify for or cannot qualify for the tourist development tax funds that we do through the county for tourism, okay? So we're going to be talking about those two programs today. And if there's any questions, as Andrea said, just either write your question down or note it on the screen, and we will get everybody's questions answered before we finish, okay? As Andrea said, a recording will be available after this session. If you need to contact me, that information is on the screen there. It's also on our website, director@sarasotaarts.org. And then all of the information that we're talking about today can be found on our website, which is sarasotaarts.org. Then you go to grants at the top of the page and move forward from there. Okay, Andrea, let's move along. Today's agenda. We're going to talk about the program calendar. In other words, what's the timing going to be on this program? We're going to give you a description of the John Ringling Tower Fund and who is eligible for it and how are they eligible. We're going to do the same thing for the Opportunity Grant Program. So what that's going to say is, like, if you're an individual artist and you're here to learn about John Ringling Tower, some of the early conversation we're going to have is going to be about this other program, the Opportunity Grant, which is for organizations. Don't get it confused in your mind. We're just, so much of the information is the same. And then we're going to break out the ability to go specifically to one or the other for you. And we're going to talk about the application process. We're going to talk about the final report. And then we're going to give you, after we finish up John Ringling Tower and two combined, we're going to give you more details for those who are looking at the Opportunity Grant. All right, so here's the calendar. And again, all of this will be on the website. July 13th, which is Monday, is the opening of the grant cycle. Now that means that we will go on to the electronic grant application and turn it on Monday. You can take a look at things between now and then, but you cannot begin the application until Monday, July 13th. Then September 11th is going to be the application deadline. And at 5 o'clock that afternoon, the process will shut down and you will not be able to make an application after that. Now, I hate to say this, but every year we have one or two people or groups that get wrapped up, have the best intentions, and they wait to the last minute. And I'm sorry, but we can't turn it back on after 5 o'clock on the 11th of September, which happens to be a very famous day in our nation now. It's also my daughter's birthday. I didn't realize that until just now. We will do, we have panelists, volunteers from the community, have strong background in the arts and in tourism and in other things, who will be reviewing the applications from the 14th to the 18th of September. And then in late September, sometime after the 18th, applicants will be notified as to whether or not they will be receiving a grant. And typically, the next to the last Monday in October, we have a big celebration of the arts at the Van Wezel Performing Arts Center, with a couple of thousand people coming to celebrate the arts and to see who gets, receives grants and so on. We almost certainly will not do that program this year, okay, just because of the circumstances. We are working on how we're going to do something different, and you'll be getting information on that, but you will be getting that information in October of this year. All right, so let's start out. This information I'm going to give you right now is about the John Ringling Tower Fund, which is the fund that we have for individual artists in our community. Individual artists in the area of performing, literary, and visual arts. And these grants are up to $3,000 per individual, in recognition of the work that you're doing in one of three categories, which I just described to you. We can award up to one winner in each category, and that is determined by the panelists as they evaluate. We will not do two in any given category, okay? And then in addition to the money that the individual artists will receive, they will also be getting a residency at the Hermitage Artist Retreat, which is a tremendous opportunity for any individual artist. I just keep wanting to let me come down there and go drink beer on the beach, but they won't do it. I'm not sure why. And then the other area that we're able to get grants for under the John Ringling Tower Fund is historic preservation. And this is a grant, one grant, up to $3,000 to support historic preservation projects in our community. And that could be rehabilitation, capital bricks and mortar projects, preventive maintenance projects, or national registration designations. And for the winners of each of those grants, when we do whatever we're going to do for the celebration of the arts this year, the winners will receive the first 75% of the money award at that celebration or at that time. And then the final 25% is received once the individual artist or the organization doing the historic preservation has completed their project and has turned in their final report. Now, that can be pretty quickly, but you have to go through and do the project and do the final report before you get the final 25%. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple of words about how this money got here. I don't know if that's in the slide thing or not, so but if it is, I'll repeat it. But many of you may recall that years ago, over near where the quay is now, or the construction site that is the quay, there was a beautiful old building called the John Ringling Tower, which John Ringling had built to bring artists from around the world into Sarasota that would either perform in the circus or be here for whatever purpose. And when the developers of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel started working on that project, it was determined that they would like to be able to have that space as a part of the development of the community. And there were a lot of people in the community that did not want to do that. And we collected a fairly large fund of money in the community that was held by the Secretary of State, called the John Ringling Tower Fund, to fight the tearing down of the John Ringling Tower. Ultimately, they lost. And when they did, that money was returned to the Arts Council at that time, the Arts and Cultural Alliance, as we call it now. And we put that money into accounts at the Community Foundation of Sarasota County and the Gulf Coast Community Foundation, and we use the interest off of that money to help fund these grants every year. And that's why one of them is a historic preservation grant, because we think that's something very important. And it's turned out to be a nice, fund for supporting our local artists and our local organizations as we go. Who is eligible for this grant? If you are a student directly enrolled in a directly related degree program at the time of the application, and your degree is pending, you are not eligible, okay? You must be a practicing artist in the community and not a student, say at Ringling or New College or wherever that may be. I've got some things in front. The application must be received under the fund, and the Arts and Cultural Alliance and the members of our staff are not eligible. You must be a resident of Sarasota County. So if you happen to be one of those people who lives right up on the north border, whose address actually says Sarasota, but you really live in Manatee County, unfortunately, you are not eligible because we have to keep these funds in Sarasota County. All right, Andrea? The other grant program that we're talking about now is the Opportunity Grant. And the reason that we've called it the State of the Arts Opportunity Grant is that the major source of funding for these grants, which go to individual organizations, is through the sale of the State of the Arts license plate in Sarasota County. And if you live in Sarasota County and you buy a State of the Arts license plate, a piece of the fee that you pay for that plate comes to the Arts and Cultural Alliance every month from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And we save that money up and then we use it to help fund these grants. And these grants are used to help support organizations, not individuals, who are whose mission is arts and culture. It's their primary mission, and they are in Sarasota County, but they do not qualify for or will not be receiving the Tourist Development Tax Grant in a given year. You cannot receive both. You can get one or the other if you fall into that category. The program provides support for projects that demonstrate artistic merit. In other words, if you're an organization that runs a road race and you're going to have a band for that road race, this is not meant to support that, okay? Your core mission has to be arts and culture. You have to demonstrate artistic merit in your project. It must include community involvement. It can't be something that is strictly within your organization and does not involve the community. And then you must be able to demonstrate administrative competency, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. These grants are up to $5,000 per application. Now that means if you've got a grant and you feel like you really need the full $5,000, that's what we want you to apply for. If you really only need $1,000, apply for $1,000 because that will help us stretch our money and support other organizations, okay? And you're not handicapped by doing that. The grant funds will be released very same nature as the John Ringling Tower funds. 75% of the grants will be at the Celebration of the Arts or whatever we do in its place this year. And then the final 25% will be received by you after you've completed your project and the final report has been accepted by the Arts and Cultural Alliance. But that has to be done by September 30th, 2021. We do not have a carryover program. So as you look at what you're going to apply for this grant program, make sure that it is a project that can be completed and wrapped up within this fiscal year. Okay, next. All right, who is eligible for opportunity grants? The primary mission of your organization must be cultural, artistic presenters, exhibitors, or arts education. You must be based in Sarasota County and have a 501c3 IRS determination. And the project must be less than 12 months in duration, as I said early, and take place between October 1 of 2020 and be completed and wrapped up no later than September 30th, 2021. Just a few notable ineligible groups, just to make sure we're clear. You're not eligible in the same year that you receive a tourist development tax grant from Sarasota County. As I said in the beginning, you can't get both. You can get one or the other. And an organization is restricted to one application with one project per year, and the organization's support groups and guilds may not apply on their behalf. For example, and this would not work on them, but if it were the Opera Guild applying on behalf of the opera, they couldn't do that. It's got to be the organization itself. All right, next. The application. This shows you where the application is available on our website. Again, it will not be turned on until next Monday, the 13th, okay? But you go to sarasotaarts.org -grants, and there's a template available in the guideline documents. We recommend that you, in writing your grant, again, it doesn't need to be really verbose. We like it to be straightforward and to the point, but prepare the text offline, whether it's an artist statement in the case of the John Ringling Tower grants, organizational history, project description, review the application, and then since you cannot save the application or cut and paste from this document, you need to just take your information and cut it and paste it into the application, and there you have it. And then it gives you, as you get to each section, it's going to tell you what the limits of the size are, and you need to adhere to those, but they're pretty generous. Next. All right, here's a couple of tips for the application. Focus on how the grant will make a difference. As I say, in the case of an opportunity grant, we mentioned community involvement. One of our major issues at the Alliance is trying to involve as much of the public as we can in arts and culture. Now, that doesn't mean that, you have to have 10,000 people there, but you need to involve other people so that we're really being able to spread the impact of arts and culture throughout the community. Keep in mind that the responses have word limits. Learn how to write succinctly your application, because as the panelists are evaluating each of the applications, they only know what you tell them. Okay, you have to be able to put your thoughts into a way that can succinctly talk about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. A good tip is, before you finally submit the application, ask somebody that you know that may not be really familiar with your work or with your organization to read the proposal and to review the work samples and see if it makes sense to them. It's a good idea to do that. And that way they may say, well, I don't understand this. That's okay. It's a good way to kind of check things out for yourself. All right, as far as the scoring goes, the scoring guide is included in the guidelines of the document. And there's an old adage in the grants business: find out what the organization wants to grant the money for, okay? And those guidelines will tell you what we're looking for in granting out money for these two grants. Focus on demonstrating excellence in the areas that are being evaluated. Don't get off talking about something that's out on a tangent. Maybe great stuff, but that's not what we're looking for. So the guidelines will tell you what we're looking for. And try to avoid addressing too many elements in your proposal that are not covered in the scoring guide. Artistic capability, administrative competency, involvement of community. Okay, next. There will be, as I've mentioned a couple of times, we assemble panelists in each of the areas who will do an independent peer review of the applications. These are typically arts and cultural professionals representing a very diverse perspective. And then the panel recommendations, once they evaluate them and make the recommendations, These recommendations are presented to the Alliance Board of Directors, and a final award approval is actually given through the board. All right, then we talked about this final report. Remember that if you receive a grant this year, either John Ringling Tower or Opportunity, you will get the first 75%. The bulk of the award will come to you in October. And then the final 25% will come when you have completed your project and completed the final report. And again, the final report section is in the SarasotaArts.org grant section. It tells you that when you write the grant and plan to collect the required documentation for the final report, what you need to put in there. For the opportunity grants and for the individual artist grants, the report is due no later than September 30th, 2021. We will not carry it over, so you need to make sure that you can complete your project within that year. And then for historic preservation grants under the John Ringling Tower, the final report is due within 30 days of the completion of the project. We want to get your money to you, and as soon as you've completed the project and got the final report in, you'll receive the check for it. Okay, next. Or questions so far?
Okay, so far, Jim, we don't have any questions in the chat box. If anyone has any questions at this moment, please enter them into the chat box, and I will share them with Jim. And this is the point where the information about the John Ringling Tower grants has all been talked about, and we are going to go into the nitty-gritty details of the opportunity grants. So if you are a John Ringling Tower applicant and you don't have any questions, you are welcome to log off now. And again, all of this information is available at SarasotaArts.org. Click on the grants button at the top of the page.
Okay, before you leave, if you are a John Ringling Tower grant applicant, let me make a couple of comments. Again, the emphasis on this grant is these grants are given to individual artists who make your living professionally, either as a performing artist, a visual artist, or a literary artist. And in the application that you will fill out for that grant, it's going to ask you to give your artistic vision of what you're trying to accomplish as an individual artist, okay? That's a very important part of the process. Now, it doesn't need to be, a 27-page tome. But what you're looking for is how are you going to grow as an artist, as an individual artist through this project. Let's say if it's in the area of literature, you may be working on a novel or a book or a poem or whatever that may be, a playwright, a screenplay, any number of things but what you need to do is to address, since I make my living as an artist, how is this project and this money going to help me grow as an artist? And that's what the judges will be looking for when you do your application. So make sure that you take a little time with that and do not wait until the very last minute to do it, because it's going to take a little longer than you think it will. And sometimes if you write it down and then come back and visit it a couple of times, you can clean it up and make it look, the way it needs to be. But keep that in mind for individual artists, and then we'll be able to move forward.
All right, Jim, we do have one question about the historic preservation grants on Ringling Tower. Are you able to use any of that money to pay a skilled staff person for work that they do, especially things that are hard to find a contractor to do?
I believe the answer to that is yes. You have to show in your application how how that money would be used to help you achieve your mission with the historic preservation piece. And I'll give you a little hint on that. In historic preservation, let's say if you're taking on a project that's going to be a $6 million project, and you're just going to apply for, if you say $5,000 to kind of get yourself started, you're much less apt to get an award on that type of application than you are to say, you know, we need $5,000, we need $3,000 to finish up this project, and we get that done, we're going to get this project complete and move on. All right. We know that we don't have unlimited money here. And so it's really, you're going to get much more of a favorable look if the money that we can provide for you will help you get closer to finishing that project quickly, rather than just throwing it into the big pool and we hope we get it there someday.
All right, that's all we have so far. Are you ready to move on to the nitty-gritty details?
I am. If you are going to be leaving now, I'd like to say to all of you who are here for the John Ringling Tower grants, thank you for being here. We love to grant out as much money as we can. We don't have a lot, but we want to make it useful for the community. And if there are ways that we can help you other than these grants, even though we're not able to get together as much as we have been in the past, let's make sure we're talking, and we're here to support you in every way we can. And good luck with everything.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Pamela. Okay, are we ready? Hey, Denny. And Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna kind of drill down a little bit on a little more detail around the opportunity grant applications. Okay, and I know that some of you have applied for them in the past and received them. Some of you, this may be your very first time, just a kind of an overview of what we're applying for and so on, and why this is here. You know, not every organization can honestly say people come here from Toledo to see our performances. You know, the opera can say that sometimes, and the big theaters can say that. But one of our missions as an alliance is to be able to help smaller or younger organizations develop, help them move along to the next stage. We've had several occasions over the years where people start out being eligible for the opportunity grant, and they work with their supporters and so on, and then they are able to move to the bigger potential money of the TDC grant. We are here to help you develop your mission and your art in the community, and you're a very important part of our community. So I mentioned earlier that the money, the primary source of money for the opportunity grants is the sale of the state-of-the-arts license plates in Sarasota County. So all of you do have donors and supporters of your project. You have participants. Make sure that you recommend to them that they may want to consider buying a state-of-the-arts opportunity plate when they buy their next license plate, because some of that money will come to you, and it'll come to help support the arts. The Arts and Cultural Alliance does not use that money for our program. We use it to help develop programs and organizations in the community. So what expenses are eligible under the opportunity grant? You can pay artist salaries and fees, production or exhibition expenses, marketing, and then office equipment and software that is related to your mission. All right, if you want to get a new accounting system, that's probably not going to get as favorable a look as something that's going to help you with your ticket sales or, your marketing efforts and so on like that. So as you're putting your application together, think about what you're asking for the money for and how you're going to use it. Andrea? These things I hate to dwell on negatives, but it's better to spell things out for people so you don't have to waste your time. You cannot use this money for fellowships or scholarships. We can't use it for touring exhibitions or performances outside of Sarasota County. So like if you're going to do a performance and you're in the southern part of the county and one of your performances is going to be over in Port Charlotte, don't ask somebody for that portion of it because the money needs to stay in Sarasota County. That's kind of the way we try to make this happen. You can't take it to write down debt. You can't pay payroll taxes or pensions or benefits. No construction, no entertainment expenses, no travel, no fundraising. This is here to help you put your productions on or your exhibits on in the coming year. That's what we're trying to do here to help you be more effective. Next. As our panelists look at the scoring on the opportunity grants, they look at 3 different areas for your organization that need to be demonstrated in your application. First and foremost is the artistic merit. This is the most important thing. From an artistic point of view, what are you bringing to your community? And they'll be looking at work samples, reviews maybe that you received, organizational history. Now, the organizational history, don't write a 27-page treatise on what you've done over the years. Make it succinct, make it impact in the community. Impact in the community is a very important thing. Community involvement, as you see in that next big category. The things that are going to be looked at very favorably are proposals that involve the community. The mission involves the community. Accessibility and diversity and inclusion are very important parts of everything that we do at the Alliance. And then the other part is a smaller consideration of administrative competency. Are your financial reports up to date? Is your board of directors contributing? What's the organizational history? Have you been able to grow the organization? That sort of thing. Next. This is a look at the budget template that you'll be given. We try to make this as simple as we can. We don't want you to have to go out and hire somebody to write up a financial deal. Tell us what, how you're going to spend your money, what it's going to cost to do what you're trying to do in the project, how this money will fit into that budget, and how you'll use the money. All right. Don't worry about getting way bogged down in all kinds of gory details, but make sure that it's clear how this money will help you do your project. And this is a sample budget that is on the website and available to you. Okay, next. We down to questions again. Again, this is we mean this. We intend it to be a very simple process to deal. We don't want to eat up a lot of your time. We know that many of you have very, very small or very limited staffs, and we want to make this easy on you. So if we have any questions, I'll take those now.
All right, Jim, I don't see any questions at the moment. If you do have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat box and we'll answer those for you. But if not, we are always available for you at sarasotaarts.org.
Let me emphasize this here. I know that we're all facing the unknown, and don't worry about trying to answer questions that are just not answerable right now. What I recommend to you in your application is this is the project that we intend to do this year, or the projects. Here's how we intend to do them. We realize that we're facing some obstacles that we may or may not be able to control, but don't angst over, gosh, I just don't know. You look at it like we're going to be in business to the extent that we feel we can make an impact in this direction. And I know many of you have been involved in conversations on some of the art-to-art talks. We know that nobody knows all the answers right now. We want to give you the money. We're here to give you the money if we possibly can. And so we're going to be trying to support you in every way that we can to help bring us all back during these hard times. So,
right.
lean on us if we can. Yes.
Oh, sorry. We've got a couple of questions that have come over.
Okay.
One is, can we get copies of the previous grants written by your organization? And I can answer that one and say yes. If you contact me at communications@sarasotaarts.org, I can look up any of your past applications from your organization and share them with you. And then the other question, Jim, can funds requested for a category bleed over to other categories requested?
It depends on what those other categories are. You know, you saw what.
I believe he's talking about the budget.
Yeah, you handle the budget in a way that makes sense for you. What we want you to ask for this money for is in things that we can support, okay? Like if you're gonna have a fundraiser as a part of your overall budget, don't ask for money to support that fundraiser from these funds, okay? Ask for money for artistic salaries or for licenses or things that will help you produce the event or the exhibit, and then separate that from things like fundraising and buying liquor and things that we can't support, okay?
Okay, and Jim, when it comes to the budget that they are presenting to you, how difficult, if that changes along the way, is that all right?
Yeah, if it's a dramatic change, make us aware of it. You know, I mean, if something comes up that you didn't expect, or it's going to impact how you would spend this money. And again, we all know that this year, there's just a lot we don't know. And we know that things change every day. So we're not going to get hung up on routine things. But if something really big happens, just make us aware of it, and then we'll work with you in every way we can.
Okay, I think that's all. So I'm gonna stop the recording and we can say goodbye.
I want to give us one